Hey there kids, welcome back. David E. on here doing another unboxing, and today we have the Captain Scarlet 1/6 scale figure from Big Chief Studios. Big Chief Studios, of course, is from the United Kingdom, and this arrived on Friday, and so I'll be doing the unboxing today. And if you're not familiar with Gerry Anderson, you're missing something. You might remember him from Thunderbirds. I do believe Thunderbirds, if you're from the United States, is the only one of his productions to get on this side of the pond. That and Space 1999, which was a live action show. The rest of these shows that you see behind here were all puppet shows. They were super marionation. Super marionation was a type of puppet design that Gerry Anderson created, and that's about what it looked like. It was a puppet, it was a marionette that was designed to look exactly like a person, including workable facial features that were controlled by strings. It was actually rather incredible to watch, and most of his shows were pretty funny, except for Captain Scarlet. Captain Scarlet from 1967, and you see I've got the set right there. Just one season. That's one of those shows where you look at it and you're like, this is for kids? Are you sure? Captain Scarlet wasn't funny at all. This is the box that it came in, the shipping container. I'm not too happy with how it came, actually. You see that it's beat up pretty good because the crates arrived in California to a distribution center for Sideshow, and Sideshow basically just slapped a label on them and sent them out just like this, right out of the shipping crate. And they took a pounding. One thing that I thought was unique, though, that I'll show you here real quick, and then I'll get right into the unboxing. You see these corner blockers are attached directly to the bubble wrap on the inside to try to protect the corners somewhat in delivery, but unfortunately, because this was never reboxed, the carton itself received a lot of damage. You see it's cracked all the way down. I don't know how well that's translating in the image because it's so white. This is cracked all the way up. It's depressions on the top. So it still took a pounding in shipping, unfortunately. Interesting box art. I do like the box art going all the way around. But let's go ahead and get this opened up. Number 410 of 2,000 that were produced. And Big Chief Studios also made some Thunderbirds characters, but I don't have those. There's too many, quite frankly. I think they made like 6 of them. I can't get all of that. Comes with a certificate of authenticity. That's cute. It looks like a postcard. And there is our Captain Scarlet, who looks almost like Captain Black. The Mysterons, of course, are the antagonists in that show. And you notice that there are no extra hands, and that is because his hands are articulated. In the very first episode, they establish the problem between the Mysterons and Captain Scarlet, and Spectrum, rather. There's his additional accessories and stand. One of those ball hugger stands, though, and I'm not a fan of these. I know this is the stand you see most often that come with these figures, but I really don't like them very much because they don't do well. The figures tend to topple off the stands, or they're too heavy for them, or there's some other problem. I think it's interesting his jacket comes in a separate compartment. So, or his vest rather, so I'll have to put the vest on myself. And there he is. The Mysterons are kind of like intergalactic terrorists. So we're going to go ahead and get him out of there and look at all of his accessories, and then we are going to test his articulation.
Okay, Captain, you don't stand a chance. You throw your gun away, and I'll come in and pick you both up.
You heard him, Scarlet. Do what he says.
And here we are back with our 1/6 scale Captain Scarlet figure out of the box. Paul Metcalf is his real name, and he is from the future. Paul Metcalf was born December 17th, 2036 in Winchester, England. Created by Jerry Anderson. And this is a very interesting figure for a few reasons. It has some different features and accessories that make it kind of unique, although I have had a few problems, and I'm going to go over all of that with you. First of all, accessories. He comes with his official Spectrum wristwatch, a pair of additional wrists, even though he only has the one set of hands, and the hands are articulated, which does concern me a little bit, because typically that silicone over wire sort of thing that is done with these figures tends not to hold up very well. So I'm a little bit concerned about that, and we'll take a better look at that a little later. He comes with this device that looks like a billy club, but it's actually a control mechanism for his eyes, which I will demonstrate for you when we pick the figure up. He's got his pistol, his cap, which is magnetically fitted, and does have the drop-down microphone, but it does not want to turn, and it feels very delicate, and I'm not wanting to break that off, because basically his headset, it just drops down from the brim of the hat so that he can talk, but this thing does not want to turn, and like I said, because it's so thin and delicate, I'm not really wanting to force that and risk breaking it, so I'll have to experiment with that a little bit more. He has the figure stand, and I'm not a huge fan of these ball hugger stands, although this one does look a little bit more solid than the ones I'm used to. You see that light in there? It does have a light up feature, and I'll show you that here in a second. Usually it's like a thin piece, and when you put the figure on the stand, it topples one way or the other eventually, and the figure falls off. This one is a round peg, and it fits about 1/4 of an inch down into this stand, so maybe it will hold up a little better. We'll see. It has an on-off switch with a light-up function, and this plaque that goes in here, and it went out again. That's the problem that I've been having with it, is that it does not want to stay on. And you put this in here, and it adds a little bit of an luminescent effect to it. And I'll take the lights off real quick so we can see that. Not too impressive, but I'm not fit to keep that light on anyways. It's kind of pointless, especially since it works when it wants to. It keeps turning on and off. 3 AAA batteries that were not provided. But like I said, the light kind of does what it wants. And then there is the tunic, the vest, if you will, which is a solid piece. It does have working snaps. These buttons actually work, which I think is very interesting. And there's another light up feature in here where you press a button or pad on the back, and the chevrons are supposed to light up on his shoulders. I cannot get it to work, so which doesn't surprise me. I typically don't bother with battery operated features on these action figures because they rarely work properly. I've had a lot of problems with them, especially with Hot Toys. And then there's this, and you're like, what the hell is this thing? Well, the back of his head comes off, and then you change his hair out with this so that the cap will fit. How bizarre is that? But I guess that was one way to do it, right? Without making the cap ridiculously large. So let's take a look at Paul. Here, Paul And we'll test his articulation here really quick. Has a great deal of head movement. Oh, his hair just came off for me. I'll show you that in a minute though. It's a lot of head movement, although like this he doesn't want to move too much. But he's got a lot of range of motion up, down, and side to side. Shoulder articulation is pretty good. Wide range of motion. Elbows are double jointed, which is nice. Because I hate it, a lot of people hate that when you get these figures and there's only a single joint in the elbows. Now the shirt is a Velcro on the side and slides open so you can get in there, and you see he's got like sort of articulated hair on his chest. But there's his torso movement. He's got a lot of jointing in the middle here, so you can get a good ab crunch out of him, although it looks really weird. It looks really weird, but you're not going to really see it under his shirt anyways. A little bit of side to side, not as much as you would have expected. The pants open up also. There's all of his ball jointing. It looks really rudimentary actually. But fairly decent hip movement. Actually, there should be a lot more articulation than this in the hips, but it's going to be hindered by the pants, which is a common problem. Knees are double jointed. And the boots have a working zipper, so you could, although it doesn't open very easily, there you go, you could open these all the way out if you wanted to. That's different also. Ankle movement is pretty fluid as well, and the boots go all the way up, so it's not with a weird joint down at the ankle. And then there's the hands, and this is where it gets kind of weird. You see how it just sort of goes into this huge mitt that he has right off the end of his wrist, which kind of looks like the puppet, the actual marionette itself. And as I pointed out, the fingers are articulated. It's like rubber over wires, so you can bend the fingers. They don't bend very easily either. They don't want to move very well. So I'm kind of struggling with it a little bit, and at the same time, I do not want to tear the vinyl, because I've seen this. You saw this with the Hot Toys Rambo. There's a lot of people with a Hot Toys Rambo that has that silicone overlaid skin that they're very, very upset with now, because that skin tore off. It's split open in various places when they pose the figure, and it can't be fixed. So I'm going to be very, very careful about messing around with his fingers. Maybe bending them just enough to get him to hold his pistol. Now let's take a look at the head. Now this is where it gets kind of interesting. You see the hair, it just comes off. It just comes off. But you look inside here in this cavity and you see two stems, right? And what that's for is you put this tool in here, and you watch his face. You see his eye? Get that on there a little bit better. See the eye? You can make him look around. You can reposition his eyes, which is pretty unique. You can put the other cap on. His like skull cap, now he looks like he's bald. And that's how you fit the hat, which is magnetically attached. So let's go ahead and get his tunic on and get him posed and put him in his rightful place in the toy museum. And here we are down in the toy museum, and we've got our Captain Scarlet in his new home with some other 6th scale figures, right between the original Hot Toys Rambo and the 2nd edition Sideshow Ghost Rider. But there's Captain Scarlet. I took the batteries out of his stand because it just wasn't doing right anyways. It works when it wants to, so there's no sense in keeping the batteries in it. And the battery pack in his tunic doesn't work either. I cannot get it to run. I fiddled around with it, but these are supposed to light up. They don't. It doesn't work. And I've had similar problems with battery functions in 6th and 12th scale figures. That's why my Iron Man, he came with a ton of batteries for his chest, his head, his hands. None of the batteries are in the figure because they don't do right. A lot of the time they just don't do right. So what's the point? I don't need to have light up chevrons. It's not like I'm going to walk in here and press his back every day. Now this is what I was talking about in relation to his hands. How his hands are actually vinyl molded over wires, and here you see an example of the silicone molded over wires. Same concept. Problem, of course, is many of these Rambos are permanently damaged because they tore in the armpits or they tore at the elbows. When people tried to pose them, they ripped. And I don't want the same thing to happen with this figure, so I'm not fit to mess with his fingers too much. The way he's posed is fine. Now, I gave him that tool for his eyes as a kind of a club. It works. And I did manage to get his microphone down safely. So he's posed with his microphone in the open position now. But that's where he's going to be living from now on Heroes Row. Well, except for the Predator. But he is a superhero, actually. I don't know if I had mentioned that. He has kind of a Phoenix sort of power. Not Phoenix as in X-Men, but Phoenix as in Resurrection. Unfortunately, he has like the worst superhero power imaginable. Every time he is killed, he comes back to life, which means that he has to die in every episode. One way or another. Auto crash, explosion, shot, stabbed, name it. It's like, wow, that just sucks to be Captain Scarlet. You gotta die every time. But he does come back to life. So what do you think of the Big Chief Studios 1/6 scale Captain Scarlet? I'm a big fan of Jerry Anderson, so I was happy to get this. And Captain Scarlet is one of my favorite productions from Jerry Anderson. Captain Scarlet and Space 1999 are my two favorites. But as far as Super Marionation, this one is probably my favorite, is the original Captain Scarlet. They redid it, animated, and I just couldn't watch it. To be honest, without the Super Marionation, it's like all of the artistic value was just gone from it. That's just a personal opinion, though. But I'm happy with the figure overall. The light up features don't really mean anything to me, so I'm not worried about it. I'm not worried about the batteries not working properly. But that is something to consider, Big Chief, if you're watching. Most of the time these things don't work right. And if you're going to put a light up feature or a battery feature, make sure that it does. Because neither of mine are working properly. The stand or the light up tunic. It just doesn't work. And of course, you know, his thing would light up when he'd get a call, if I remember correctly. I haven't seen the show in a while. And then the microphone would drop down and he'd talk. But let me know what you think of the figure overall. Please do give the video a thumbs up if you got something out of it. I hope that you did. Share it if you can. Subscribe if you're new. Check out some of our other videos. We do a lot more than just unboxing videos. We do have like pretty much what could be considered a full function toy museum going here. So we have a lot going on. We do weekly roundups. We do many other things on this channel, so check it out. And find us on Instagram, Open by Chance on Instagram. And we will see you again soon.